listening to Podium Podcast with Simon Hartley and Tom May. This is the show that invites the world's top athletes to discuss life in and after professional sport. Podium Podcast is brought to you by True Potential Wealth Management. To find out more, visit domorewithyourmoney.co.uk.
Simon, this is
hello. We've got a mate of yours, I know, and you. I can remember you saying this is going to be an absolute firecracker. This one.
Well, yeah, I've got no idea where it's going to go, which is the interesting thing. Whereas the other guys, you know, perhaps we don't know them as well, and it stays on a bit more on the straight and narrow. This could go absolutely anywhere. So Joe van Niekerk, what an absolute star of rugby he's been over a number of years. More than 50 caps for the Springboks, World Cups, all that sort of stuff. Proper athlete, energy to burn. This guy's going to be a good bloke to chat to,
and has now found his way into the jungle. I mean that is something I'm really interested to find out. How do you go from playing top level sport and then end up in the jungle?
Well, he was always very keen on looking at how he could use different things to heal himself. Wasn't that keen on all of the sort of anti-inflams and stuff that you sort of take down your neck when you're sore or whatever it might be, like the long-term effects of that. So, but an interesting route. It'd be interesting to find out what he's up to.
Absolutely, I'm pretty sure this is going to be a great conversation.
Big Joe.
How
are you?
Silver Fox, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. It is amazing to see you. And just explain where you are. Unbelievable.
Oh, mate, yeah. I've been down in Costa Rica now for the last 6 years, brother. And when we were back in the south of France together, I made the move from there. And just been living the Pura Vida lifestyle.
Love it. Hey, Simon, we've had 2 South African number 8s on. I mean, but the 2 guys now, with Bobby Skinstad and now Joe, like 2 polar opposites from where they are and what they're doing, is really, really exciting to have Joe on, right? Apart from, as well as having the most amazing beard.
That is the most amazing beard. The hair's looking good too. I mean, I'm very jealous because mine's thinning a bit. I can see that yours has changed colour. How does he do it? It's not even fair.
I love it. Hey, Joe, just explain to us, I guess, and this is saying this to you in the most respectful way possible, that you would speak to most athletes, and there's been some fairly traditional transitions from sport, and you know exactly what I'm meaning by that. Talk to us about how the hell you ended up in Costa Rica doing what you're doing, because it looks unbelievable.
Oh, mate, as you said, it's not probably the conventional route through, like for a lot of players. Obviously, guys stay within the rugby echelons and kind of stay connected to what they know, which is also, it's a beautiful thing. I think also another beautiful path, and each one of these different paths it brings its uniqueness, you know. And so, for me specifically, like I came out to Costa Rica on a vacation. And we just started exploring the country, and at one moment in time, it was like, oh, we're gonna look to possibly move here, and look at buying an organic farm. And part of that process was just my own healing that I went through. That's what spurred me on to wanna be part of or create co-create a space where we could have other healing modalities and things like this going on the land, so that I could help other human beings in their awakening processes. And so that was one of the major things, because once I stopped playing, I went deep into my own healing process, you know, after all the years of carnage, and so coming through that process and that transition. Once I had come through my own healing, I started to see that, wow, I just want to be part of this and and Costa Rica seemed like the perfect place to, to host those kind of events and to bring people to this kind of space, because it's really much like nature, being in the river, being in the water, and you're just merging yourself with the all the elements that exist here.
Yeah,
Joe, you mentioned one word there, and you used one word. Sorry, Simon. You used the word carnage.
I was going to ask exactly the same.
It's the one word that stood out, right? Like, oh no, it all stood out. It all stood out. But the one word stuck with me, and that was carnage. Did you find the end of your rugby career that was you were in mental turmoil? Did you find it that difficult?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Tommy. Like towards the end of the career, mate. Just you go through all sorts of emotions. Now I know that even those unwanted emotions, it's okay. It's good. It's okay to be with those unwanted emotions, even if they feel like you're not, maybe potentially not used to being with that. But I think coming towards the end of a career, specifically for me, was like the last 6 months of my career. I really reached that point where I recognized that, wait a minute, like this is going to be the end, and so then all of, as I mentioned, the unwanted feelings of kind of all different feelings like rejection, sadness, loss, all of these feelings started to present themselves. And I feel that one of the aspects definitely that helped me through that process was to not isolate myself, to now be, okay, for the last 6 months of my playing career, I wasn't really in the mix anymore, right? So stepping back from that situation and analyzing it and saying, hey, okay, so how am I going to approach this? And then looking into different, spiritual practices, looking into how specifically for me was like Buddhism, how they would approach certain situations when, potentially it could be perceived as something really hard to deal with. And for me, obviously being integral to the team and playing and being solid in there, like not being part of the mix was it was hard for me to deal with at that point in time. Yet bringing a different aspect to arriving at training with a positive mindset, with a positive energy, I think that was the catalyst for me to kind of transcend that process of not being in the mix anymore.
Yeah.
And so so just making it your intention that every practice I'm going to rock up, even if I'm holding bags, I'm going to be there, I'm going to be solid, I'm going to be positive, and I'm going to be there for my mates, because I know that they're going to go on and they're going to do better things and they're going to win trophies, and I want to be part of, like I've been part of this, but now I may not be in the mix, but I'm still part of this team, and so just pumping the positive energy. And I think another aspect of that was the coach is a lot of players, when they're not in the mix anymore, they kind of like get this like chip on the shoulder, and it's like, oh, it's the coach, he doesn't like he doesn't like the way I play, or whatever kind of negative little streams that are created through that. But I think that was also a catalyst, because I decided, no, I'm not gonna create negative pockets of just negativity. I'm going to actually arrive and be positive, go to the coach, say, hi coach, look him in the eyes, not back down from that situation, in a sense, and just be present with it and go through and add positive energy as much as you can.
That's brilliant. I mean, loads of people would probably they'd appreciate the physical carnage bit of it, and when you said healing earlier, I bet they'd be thinking, healing bones and healing muscles and tendons and things like that. But like you say, it's a very, very different kind of healing. What was it? Because I think most people would say that being in that sort of pressure cooker environment, as it's often known, that the sort of intense glare that you get when you're at professional, elite and international sport would be tough. But actually, I can imagine stepping immediately outside of that into a bit of a vacuum is equally tough.
Oh yeah, like without a doubt. I mean, I think that the day in, day out slog of like performing each week. I mean, which job is there that like the CEO has to perform at his top level every weekend? You know what I mean? So it's like kind of this constant kind of up and down and pressure to be at the best. But I feel like a lot for players that are coming to the end of their career, it can be very daunting, of course. Like there's processes in place for them to really discover what potentially passion they have outside of the game. But I think that if you arrive at that point, it's you've got to deal with all of the, it's that big thing, now who am I? That question, like, who am I without my rugby? Because I've been playing this for so many years, So that was the one existential question that arose for me. It was like, who am I? Because I've been told that I'm Joe, the rugby player, but like at the end of the day, like, what is my worth, as a human being? And I think that was the focal thing, is just to like start to focus on like, okay, like, well, I'm actually worth it. It's not got to do with like what people are saying about you, because that's another thing. You get told that you're some hero, and then the next weekend you're nothing, and it's like this up and down, and you can ride that wave. And I think that's a beautiful thing. You can ride it. But at some point in time, every star, every player, every athlete comes to that point in their career where, it comes to an end. So it's definitely, there's many different healing modalities and different things where you can explore. But I would say the biggest fundamental thing for me is to have a passion, to have something that really drives you, that like the same as what you were on the rugby pitch, but now you transmute that energy and you channel it into something else, which is like, it could be anything, it could be commentary, it could be playing music, it could be, becoming a chef, it could be any other kind of thing that you would be very passionate about.
We hope you don't mind us interrupting this episode with a very brief shout out to our partners at the Podium Podcast, True Potential Wealth Management. At True Potential Wealth Management, their mission is to help you do more with your money. Expert financial advice, innovative investments, and leading technology are all designed to put you in control and help you achieve your financial goals. To find out more about their specialist advice, investment opportunities, and pension services, visit domorewithyourmoney.co.uk. That's domorewithyourmoney.co.uk. With investing, your capital is at risk. True Potential Wealth Management LLP is authorised and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority. Thanks for listening. Now, let's get you back to this week's show.
How long did it take you to come to terms with Joe, the rugby player, having sort of disappeared out the back door? How long did it take you to become comfortable with that?
I think like for me, it was a lot of like shedding of all the layers, because I mean, all the chemical drags, like as I mentioned, like the carnage, like all of the hits, all of the knocks, like, over all those years. So coming to that point where I had come to the end of that, and then I was sort of like searching within, like, okay, as I said, like discovering my own worth, and like as a human being, just separate from like rugby player. And I think that process probably took me like 2 years, because I initially I didn't jump into anything else, right? Like I kind of actually just stepped back. Like you said, it's quite interesting and intriguing. You said like walk out the back door, because I think that's kind of what it was. Like we were all there, we were winning, we were doing all of that, and then all of a sudden it was just like, I'm out. And from that, I just felt that for me in that process, the necessary thing was for me to like really go within. And I think I needed kind of just to be apart from the whole like rugby fraternity in a way, like just to rediscover, as I said, to find my own worth, and to recognize, and then of course all the deep healing that took place in those 2 years.
Was that your choice to I mean, if you had the opportunity to have another contract, would you have taken it? Or had you come to that point in time where we all get there and it's like, oh my God, this feels like my legs are just going to fall off? Which one of the two was it?
Yeah, so I think for me, brother, like I had another opportunity in was actually talking for like one more year for I think it was the Sharks. I was in discussion with them, and then I just decided, yeah, as you said, man, like you get to the end and you start to feel the legs and kind of maybe the hunger isn't as it's not burning the same way, and it's kind of
Mm.
once that happens and the passion is not as lit up, then it's kind of it seems to me that it's a good day to walk away. And
Mm.
yes, but it's interesting that because like even now, like what are we like 8, 7 years after playing, I'm super passionate, man. Like I've been training like a dog, but like I sometimes think, hey man, like I just love to go and play a club game, just smash a few guys.
Mate, with that beard and
Just
long
fun.
hair, you could get on the pitch and no one would know who you are. You'd be like, this guy's awesome. Let's get him in.
But brother, do you know that they actually did that? I don't know if you saw that, like on ESPN. It was flipping classic. They got this guy. They got Eli Manning, and they and they put like he's like I think he's in his 40s, but they put like this. They put this mask on him, and
Oh,
then
wow.
yeah, they put this mask on him, and then he rocks up at like the tryouts. I can't remember which team it was, but he rocks up at these
Brilliant.
tryouts. It's like college football, and he and he just leaves.
Absolutely clean it, like throwing rockets. Throwing
Kills
rockets
it.
over the back.
He kills it, and then he's like, and then all the dudes are like, "Right, this guy can play." Yeah. And then the dude's like, sign him up, he's
Oh,
amazing. And then at the
I
end of
love
the
it.
thing, he like pulls the mask off, and everyone's like, "Ah, fuck it,
Yeah,
you, man."
he's got 50 million quid in his bank. Just no wonder he's pretty good.
Yeah.
I bet you could get
I love
residency
it.
for the Costa Rican team now.
Johnny Wilkinson.
Oh yeah,
What's
he'd be
that?
captain.
Oh, you're straight, brother. I promise you,
You-
if that was a possibility, because I mean that's the thing. I'm actually heading back to South Africa in next week, and I'm really looking excited. I'm really excited to go and potentially play like some touch rugby or just get amongst the banter and get amongst the boys.
Mate, I one thing I would now. This is a very old man comment, but I'm going to say it anyway. So I hadn't played a game. I hadn't played a game for ages, and I played in an England and Ireland vets game last
Oh,
March.
yeah.
And I still thought I was like 30, flying around. Like in my mind, I was like, "This is awesome." And me being me, I was like, I went to try and whack someone legally, obviously, and I tore my bicep. And
Shit.
so
Oh,
I was like, "Oh no!"
mate.
So I literally hit the guy and walked off, knowing that I'd done something. And I've now,
Oh.
Joe, you know how much I value my biceps, and I've got one really manky looking right bicep right now.
No,
So-
mate, like, that's what I was thinking. How the flip did that thing break? Because it's so big. It's like a flippin', it's like a freaking leg.
On any other person's normal arm, it would actually be quite small. But the fact that it's about 3 inches long, it's just been rolled up.
Oh, brilliant.
So yeah, it's
mate.
it's definitely something you've got to do just to try and sort of, I don't know, scratch that itch, I suppose. Like
Yeah.
as long as you're comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Is it-
for sure. That's definitely. Oh, sorry, Simon.
I was going to say there's a word that you used earlier, or phrase that you used, and I'm really keen to know what it means. Pura Vida.
Oh, yeah, Pura. Okay, so let me give you the classic example of Pura Vida. Okay, so basically, what it means is pure life. Okay, but the thing is, that in Costa Rica, it gets used in many different ways, and the one the one way is like as an example. Okay, I'm in my house and I'm running a bath, and all of a sudden, all the water, no water. And I'm like, oh, damn. Okay, there must have been a tree or something that hit the pipe and broke the pipe, and now there's no water. So I left it. I thought, no, it's all good. I'm not going to phone my right-hand man. I'm not going to get him out of bed to come and check the pipe and see. I'm gonna go to sleep. So I wake up in the morning. I go from my main bedroom. I walk through and I go into the kitchen area, and I look out the window, and I just see so much light. And I'm thinking, why is it so bright in here? And then I realize what is going on. So I walk to the window and I look out the window and I just see like 5 meters from the house, like massive landslide. All of the trees, everything that were there, all the shrubbery, that's all gone. And it's all just 70 meters down.
Oh.
And I look at this and I'm like, Pura Vida.
Yeah.
Because it's
but
like,
what can I do?
Yeah, what can I do? Like, you got to roll with the punches. Like, you're living in the jungle, this shit comes up, and it's like, it's that saying, it basically just means like shit happens. Like, and a lot of people use it like Pura Vida. As I said, there's different like connotations around it, because like, another one could be like, oh, Pura Vida, awesome life. Like when you see someone, it's like awesome life, Pura Vida. It can be used in a very positive way, or it can be used in a way like, oh shit, my car just broke down, Pura Vida. Because it's like Costa Rican time is very different from like city time. It's like yeah.
So when people speak to you, like if you speak to someone like around here or in the UK, and they go a bit like Simon, probably, you'd be like, Simon would go, oh, I live in the middle of nowhere. Now, he doesn't really. He probably lives 10 minutes from the local town, or, he's got a 10-minute drive to... Are you
minutes.
literally in the middle of nowhere in there? Yeah, exactly. in the car on a nice flat road. But are you literally in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, so I'm not like, I wouldn't say I'm like deep jungle. I think we're probably from the nearest town, we're probably like 35 minutes. And in a town that has everything that you could need, potentially supplies, different things. So, and also like where our farm is specifically, it's kind of, it's up on the mountain, but it's quite close to like a main road that goes through to another town. So it's like, so there's quite a lot of like traffic on this road that passes the farm. And then, but if, say for instance, if I go like out here and I go left and I just keep gunning it, like I can get to part like where there's no signal, no nothing.
Right.
Just a lot of goddamn snakes.
Sorry, this is breaking up a little.
I just said there's a lot of snakes that way.
Yeah. If you're afraid of snakes, don't go left, brother.
Yeah, man. Don't go left. Go right. Stay right.
Yeah, stay right.
So you mentioned earlier that so I guess farming is a part of it, but you also mentioned that you're trying to create experiences that really help people. So how do those two knit in together?
Yeah, so I think that the beautiful way how we can integrate the two is actually, obviously from a nutritional point of view, like what we're putting into our bodies, right? Like we've heard that so many times, like I think, but what the integration of those two things is actually having your own produce on the land and then taking that produce and then straight from farm to table. So having retreats where you have people coming in to stay, and then from there you have them eating off the land. And I think that through that way, it's a very healing and nourishing way to basically nurture yourself and to nourish yourself. And I think that coming from the land specifically, like it's all about energy for me too. Like what kind of energy are you putting into your growth of your fruits and your plants and your, what kind of love are you showing them? And through that process, that love and that what you give in that sense comes back full circle, and I think that that's one of the things that I've noticed just from this process of being in having different various retreats, different facilitators coming through and sharing their healing modalities. The most potent thing is to have a retreat center where that retreat center is being supplied predominantly 70%, 80% of the food is coming from the land, because it kind of shifts the energy, and it's also the fact that, like, as I mentioned, like all the energy that's going in to produce it, and then that goes full circle into the people that are there for retreat, And it's really all round. It's the best way to go. I think when people recognize, like they see, oh my, I'm drinking guanabana, which is like a exotic fruit. I'm drinking this smoothie in the morning, and it's guanabana, and I'm like, oh, it's from the guanabana tree right here. And like, the people get the connection with like the nature and with what has been planted and then what they're putting into their body. So I think that's most definitely like a very enlightening way to be living, and then also just to be providing those kind of spaces for people to have those experiences.
Simon, I've met a fair few players over the sort of 18 years that I was playing rugby, but probably none of them had the same energy as Joe, as you can probably get coming across. But Joe, I wonder whether that energy is actually it's one of those we talk about transferable skills on this, Joe, in how what people from a sporting background can use take into the sort of business world. I wonder whether that energy is the basis of all of those transferable skills for you personally. I think there's an element to resilience that we all sports people have, and that combined with your energy is probably, especially in the environment you find yourself in right now, is probably really important.
Oh, Tommy, like I was just thinking about it, because when I saw the document that you sent, I was like, well, it was kind of like sat there and like just contemplated it for a while, because I was like, well, what are those skills that we learned like while we were playing? What skills do we bring forward into the real world? Put it the real world, whatever we want to call it. But like when now we've got to venture into new projects, we've got to kind of like build a new foundation. Potentially, we had the foundation already, so it's like, okay, we're stepping into this. What kind of skills can we use? And it was like really, it dawned upon me, man. Like I absolutely love being in teams, and it's just like I just get so much joy out of seeing my teammate like freaking score a try, or my teammate like laugh or freaking just like back you up, like got your back, like I'll hit this guy, you missed him, don't worry, but I got him, that kind of energy. And so I've been like really drawn to be in projects that are that have that team camaraderie and that like that brotherhood, and as much as even sisterhood, but like for brotherhood, for potentially more, because that reminds me so much of like our days of being warriors on the field, and then taking those skills, everything that we learned, like pushing it to that edge, and then like just tampering off, and then push it to the edge again and tampering off. And so many of the different spaces that I'm moving in now, I'm actually taking a lot of that energy that we was cultivated within the rugby, and kind of channeling it into these spaces. And one of those has actually been working with this ancient indigenous temple. It's called the Temazcal. And this Temazcal it's been a traditional thing from the ancients, like 2,500 years ago, to where it is right now. And so in this valley, we've got basically a guy that runs this Temazcal. So he's like the leader of it, which would be like in a team, right? Like it would be the leader of the team, the guy that's the leader, okay? And then he has backup, so he has 4 other guys who are like the Águila Fuegos. These guys are like the working engine of the Temazcal. They're the ones that bring in the volcanic stones, they create the fire. So it's like it's a full purification, like healing and all of this. But why I'm mentioning it is because of the dynamic of it. So those 4 guys, they're the ones that bring in the stones, and it's like big volcanic stones, right? It's like, and create the fire. And then these people come in, and then they are engaged in like singing and praying and sweating. Basically, it's like a sweat lodge, but traditionally off the Mexica tribes, which is like it's called the Temazcal. But yeah, just the passion that we had on the field is like channeling that passion in a different way. But I think that the dynamics of like team for me are so it's like within my blood, and I'm sure it's within your blood too. It's in all of our blood that we're part of those things. Like that, as I mentioned, like the camaraderie, the building together, the confidence that you get over working repetitively with other humans, that you start to build a trust, and through that process, like the just the energy of that, like it's really appealing for me, and I offer myself, like I don't get paid to do those things. I just offer myself to be in service for that, because that's where I get like my most joy. And then I realized also that when I'm like, even because this time it was raining hard, and so we were all in the Temescal, and there was like a lot of like water in the Temescal, so it's like freaking muddy and water, and I just like, that's where I want to be. And it's sometimes reminding me, like, the days when we had like pissing down rain, and we're like in the mud, and you're like your face is in the mud, and there's a guy on top of you. I remember that, Tommy. I remember that looked like a day where you and Martin Johnson, or the right? You and him, that looked like a same kind of day, like that. Just mud.
That was quite warm. That was quite a warm day in the UK.
So, but there's something within that, brother. Like maybe for the viewers or for the listeners, they think this guy's a bit nuts or whatever, but because I love that. I love being like immersed in a team environment, like in working hard together, striving for that goal, and everyone's doing their part to make that happen, and for that to become a success, and for that team to, whether that was part of a healing or whatever that was, but that team to kind of come through and like have succeeded, and that builds like so much confidence, and then from there you can just grow and grow and grow, and it becomes like really powerful synergy between brothers.
What sort of team are you building on your farm there? Have you got a team? Have you got a wider team, or are you sort of, how does it work?
Yeah, so we've got on this farm at the moment, we've got we run it differently. So there's some places here within the valley that I know, like my one good friend, Chris, he's got this place called the Living Library. It's basically like all these different species of medicinal plants. He's running it in a very different way. He's running it from a volunteer perspective. So what you give in terms of your energy, you're not necessarily having to pay. There are people that come and pay to stay there, but then he's doing it in different ways. So he's actually, people are giving their energy to the space, and then he rewards them in the sense of like they can stay there, they can learn, they can eat from the land, all of that. So what we do here is a little bit different. Ours is kind of like based off a model of like, I think more like the West, which is like we hire a team. So I've got one right-hand man, and I've got another three guys that work specifically just on the land, and then like all different other kinds of works that can be like, as I mentioned, like the landslides, like they'll plug the landslides. I help them with that. Actually, I got stuck in because I was like, I gotta help out here. And then just all the other pieces that those guys take care of. Then I've got I've got the right-hand man who does like more, he's like a bodyguard, he does like chauffeuring, he does a lot of other different things. And then one other guy that's actually, at the moment we aren't running retreats, right? Because of the whole COVID that happened. And now we've come through that now, but now we've got settled tenants in the spaces. So we have, the models changed a little. And actually, to mention this, but we're in a process of selling the farm. So the next venture, brother, will be definitely be similar, but I think I'm going to downscale, because it was a really big project to maintain and to continue with.
Did you find that your experiences as a captain have helped you to build other teams outside of rugby, build these teams and to really understand people?
Yeah, I think that's for me, that's the most crucial thing, is to recognize to recognize each individual and to see what characteristics they can bring to the party, what value do they add, and then I think a big thread of that is like the confidence that you instill in other humans. But that's not about just talking or saying, "Oh, come on, we got to do da. You got to like walk it as well, right?" Like so, and I think that the most, for me, this interesting topic, because leadership, I really am passionate about leadership, and I think that when I've seen the most humble men, that those are the ones that you want to follow, right? The people that aren't, they're not the first ones that says, if someone says something like, "Oh, who wants to take charge of this?" They won't be the first one sticking their hand up. They'll probably be like just observing, So there's like there's really like kind of principles within leadership that like, as I mentioned, like that I feel like can enhance the group of men or women, whoever's being led, right? And I think that that's also a key crucial thing, and Tommy will know about this as well, is like in any team, like you have to have when you've got like world-class players, or you've got other humans that are also like really leaders within their own right, and some of the best players in the world, and as well as leaders, and what kind of energy they bring, because they bring this energy that lifts the whole. And then I think it's very simple for a leader to really lead. But I also feel like that's, as I mentioned, the one that's saying, "Oh, I want to lead. That's not always the one that you want to lead, right? Like it's sometimes interesting to observe that. And you can actually see that a lot within these game shows, the ones where they go to the island. And then you can see, the dynamics within those structures, like who's now wanting to lead or who's just observing, and sometimes the one that's the first one that's like, yeah, he's the one that gets kicked off first. Or, actually, so it's like, it's very, so man.
Yeah. Because actually one of your challenges was you had a team of absolute superstars, and you probably had the Springboks as well. But I mean, Toulon from 1 to 15, mate. And then onto the bench, you had superstars, including Tom May, of course. And it could have been that you had too many egos there. Of course. But it could have been that you had too many egos, and it didn't work as a team. So actually, how you lead that team it's got to be pretty interesting, and in order to bring out the best from everybody and get them to sort of pull together, actually, form a cohesive team.
Simon, just jumping in there, I think one thing, because I had massive imposter syndrome when I went to Toulon. You look around the change room, and some of the people who were in there was ridiculous. But actually, what I found when we went there was actually some of the political things that were going on outside of the changing room actually brought us together as a group, because we had absolutely no control over one or two personalities within that club, and it affected players. It affected players' length of contract. It affected players' mental well-being, whatever, and actually it brought us all together. And I think at the time there wasn't what they have now in France is slightly different in that a certain percentage have to be through that French academy. But when we went there, oh my God, it must have been like 25 different languages going on. But we were all in that sort of collective unit where it was like, well, we're in this together. And that actually was the basis for what I think were those years where guys like Joe and Johnny and Matt Gitto did so well, because actually the foundations of what they built their huge success on came from, weirdly, external forces coming into a changing room that actually forced it tighter and tighter as a group. And like just a quite an interesting story that, well, it's interesting now. You look back; it certainly wasn't at the time. It was an absolute pain in the ass. But I don't know whether Joe was in there, would played or not. But remember that wet Friday night in Biarritz? And basically, being as short as I am, I was up to my chin in mud. They'd flown us over to Biarritz, which was great. And we lost. And it had been a perception from one or two individuals outside the changing room that we should have absolutely cleaned them up. So they flew the bloody plane back empty.
No way.
and they stuck us all on a bus. And then you start to understand how big France is. We didn't get home until 8:30 in the morning. Like big units like Joe just like lying on the floor. And then you have experiences like that actually bring you together even further. Like, it was quite an extreme environment, wasn't it, in terms of a high performance environment, Joe?
Oh, mate, like that, as you mentioned, brother, like you not sure from day to day, right? Like, and especially in those beginning years, like, because, you know, at that point in time, Murat was maybe a little bit more like, he was a little bit more ruthless even, you know, because as obviously we got like the leadership group, we got like solid things going, it wasn't happening as much, there wasn't as much fluctuation. But as you mentioned, Tommy, like, at any hour, like, okay, you guys are playing, like, you're not playing well, like, okay, well, I don't think we're going to pay you Monday, you know, like, yeah, well, really? Okay. But, so yeah, no, I think, yeah, Tom made it like an incredible point there, is like, definitely you can allow external forces to separate you. And, I definitely, when I arrived in Toulon, I think they were on a 17-run losing streak. So, like, they had lost 17 games. I remember, like, played a game, I think it was against Northampton. They got absolutely hammered at the Stade Maillot by 70 points. And I just remember I had, like, just landed, and I was watching them just, like, get absolutely, like, pounded, right, like, for a long time. And that's when all the shenanigans was happening with Murat and with all of the things that were transpiring. But as time went on, I think like there was some crucial changes within, like he made Tana Umanga the coach, and then Tana like actually offered me the captaincy. So then like things just started to shift, and then from that point we were almost on the relegation. We were on relegation basically, and it came down to like our last game, and we had to win it against Dax away from home. And we ended up winning that game, and we stayed in the top 14. And I think that was a major achievement in terms of like keeping the solidity with all of those, as you mentioned, those external factors that were happening in that time. And then as you know, we got the marquee players, we got the Tom May, we got the we got the Johnny Wilkinsons, we got the, you know.
Yeah,
we got
Johnny. He was like a. I just couldn't get rid of that guy. He just followed me everywhere.
I know, mate. What? You guys obviously were like really good friends, right? You just like you didn't want to leave each other's
side. It was just like, oh wow, you're here. Again, yeah. Let's go again. Hey Joe, if you had a chance to chat to an 18-year-old Joe again. Given where you are now, what would you do differently, or what would you say differently?
That's a really interesting and loaded question. I feel, yeah, man.
Hey, Simon, it's not often I come up with shit that absolutely bamboozles people, but it's bowled him out. It's taking his off stump out, mate.
He's just standing there with his back
I don't want to give you the rhetorical question. I don't want to give you that the standard. I don't want to give you the standard answer that's like, okay, work hard, eat right, like do good.
You did that anyway. You did that anyway. Talk about the one that you didn't do.
Man, I think that like once you recognize you have a talent, right? And I think that once you recognize that you potentially could have a career in sport, or in, let's just say, as a rugby player, I think that, as you mentioned just before, there's all sorts of external forces, that potentially could take you off that trajectory. So how much passion, how much heart, how much time, how much sacrifice are you willing to give to your art? Because if you aren't at that point in time, at 18 years old, if you're going to be distracted, there are girls, there's booze, there's a lot of different distractions. And if you're very talented, maybe you'll evade those things. And but at the end of the day, and you'll agree with me, Tommy, it comes down to hard work, mate. Like you can be the most talented dude ever. At some point in time, you will be knocked off your pedestal, and you will have to come back, and you will have to work hard, and you will have to grind, just like any one of those other brothers that grind to be there.
Yeah.
So as an 18-year-old growing up, I would say, you know what, have your fun, but also recognize that when it's time to get serious, and it's time to work as hard as you can. Because I remember from, going back in the day, like the under 18s, the under 19s, the under 21 South African camps that we were involved in, it was serious stuff, man. Like we were training like full blown professionals, right? Like at very young ages, and just like always had to. I think we always had to be at a certain level or a certain standard in terms of our fitness, our strength. And that started very early on, man. Like I remember starting that like in 17 years old. I remember being part of those camps, and just the, as I mentioned, like there's certain personal things without that sphere, like on the outskirts of that sphere. But when you're really in it and you recognize like, hey, this is like something which I'm passionate about and I can make a go for this, then like, just give it your absolute all and go full blown into it.
Simon, there's we've got a stock 5 questions, haven't we, or 4 or 5 questions? I really should know that after the number of podcasts we've done. But we could get some interesting answers here, so I'm looking forward to this. So Joe, if you hadn't been a professional athlete, what would you have been, and is there another vocation that sort of took your interest?
Could like a Viking warrior be one of them?
No, I didn't say you can go back in time.
No. Well, we'll role play, man. We'll put on a Viking crown and we'll eat steak and we'll
I like it.
Skull. I went on holiday. I went on holiday to Iceland a few years ago, and there's a T-shirt that says "Be yourself," and if you can't be yourself, be a Viking.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, that's exactly it.
Oh, mate, I need that shit, man. I gotta get that shit, bro. That's the best. Woo.
I like it.
Oh, man. Yeah, I know. And on a more serious note, I think because when I read that, I was like, oh, okay, I wonder what. And then the first thing that came to mind was like physiotherapy, bro. I was like, what? What?
Sort myself out.
Yeah, sort myself out. Sort others, do some work.
Yeah. I like it. And if what was the next one? It's ridiculous. Actually, got a brain like a sieve. Who's the person you admire most in sport and then in business?
Wow,
Tom May.
Yeah, that was also a pretty load one. Yeah, definitely up there, Tommy. You're definitely up there, mate. But like to choose one person in so many, it's like, oh man.
Yeah.
I think yeah. For me, could I say Nelson Mandela for business? Yeah, man, because I just think he's just absolutely epic. That guy was just, so sincere, so humble, and really united the nation, right, from all of the turmoil from before, like just to come out and have that much compassion, sincerity, and very smart, right? Like on how to unify a country. I think that stood out for me, like in my path, like in a big way. And his presence is always pretty close,
Did you meet him at all?
Yeah, I met him. I met him after, I think it was after 2000, maybe during the 2003 World Cup, or like just before then. We went to his house in Houghton. Yeah, we went to go and like meet, and we just took a picture with him. And just his presence, brother. Like when you walk into a room and you just feel his presence was just so like almost like palpable, but like just his frequency, like was just so steady, and made you feel so welcoming and so he was so loving, like. But
he's one of my heroes.
Yeah, him, and then no doubt about it. And in this within the sporting world, man, there's so many that just like.
Sporting
I must say,
Johnny
Johnny Wilkinson must be way up there, bro. Because like, honestly, like just the fact that I think it's like most people may say, oh yeah, Tiger Woods or LeBron James or Ronaldo or one of these dudes. But at the end of the day, like they're all exceptional, like athletes. The thing for me is like having played with one of those kind of athletes I think that's why I would probably say Johnny Wilkinson, because I've played with him, right? So I can actually like comment like truly on like what I saw and how he trained and how he was and all of those things. So it's a big question, right? Because it's like, does one person in your mind stick out?
I'm not sure really. Like I think in terms of athletes, and look, he's probably done some things in his previous life that he doesn't look back on now as being the most special times of his life. But Sonny Bill Williams, in terms of a sportsman and an ability to play rugby league at the top, play rugby union at the top, and actually he's a pretty frightening boxer as well. That guy, he was on the beginning of his journey in rugby union, right? When he was with us in Toulon, and he was an absolute freak to play alongside because he had the ability to get the ball away when he's an inch from the floor that mere mortals like us would just go through the floor and put it back between our legs. That guy's skill or ability was off the charts. From a sporting perspective, he has to be. I mean, physically, he was a bit of an absolute freak as well.
No doubt about it. Like, I think if crossing codes like that now being boxing, it's like there's not many that have been or are that have been able to successfully be, within all of those. And then, as you mentioned, like some of those games that we were bed witness to, like when Tana was playing, you were playing, he was playing. And like, just, man.
I look like there's a small child in between them. Like they let a mascot go on and have a shot.
You were stocky, bro. You were stocky. You had the,
yeah. My dad's got a photo of us in that Challenge Cup final in Marseille. I'm stood next to like Sonny Bill, and it just looks like who's this little guy? It's like it's ridiculous. The next corner, I think, apart, you probably say reinvest it in the little bit that it had the landslide outside. But if you had some funds to invest, what would you invest it in,
mate? Like, honestly, like I'm looking at all of the things that we can invest in these days. I would say invest in gold, invest in silver, or invest in land. Those three things. Yeah, and I think crypto. I think crypto could be a good thing to invest in because I feel like everything's kind of going that way. It's already digital, right? Like, but I also feel that once the regulations come on as to like what you benefit to what it's like all of these institutions at the end of the day are going to create like some kind of tax on the people. And it's just like, so for now, I mean, like a lot of people got like super rich from crypto, right? But I think like as time is going on, I still think we're going to probably see Bitcoin shooting up again. But then also like, let's say Bitcoin goes to like 100 grand, okay, for one Bitcoin. Like what does that mean then to cash that out? Are you going to be paying 20, 30% or 40% tax on that? Like that's because these guys are all talking about like a 10-year plan, right? Like, and that it's all eventually going to go to crypto. So I think that possibly will happen, but to answer your question, I would personally invest in land. That would be my first thing, and I would look to like securing my own water source, having like growing my own food, just having that piece of land, and then either gold or silver. Yeah,
like it. The last one. You can only watch one film for the rest of your life. It can't be Castaway.
Well, bro,
What?
you're going to be surprised about this one, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Well, maybe not surprised, but you know The Revenant,
No.
the one with it's with Leo DiCaprio,
Okay.
and it's like it's all about like how it's like out in Alaska, right? Like, so it's shot like in this thing. It's about these like it's just the whole story around that. Like, but it's intense because it's like it's about a 2.5 hour, one of those like proper like Leo DiCaprio kind of like movies that he's just like solidly method actor, like in the role, like, and then he basically like in the movie gets attacked by this massive bear. And then he like wrestles the bear and he fucking kills the bear. And then he ends up using the like cleaning out the whole insides of the bear and like actually getting inside the coat of the bear just to survive. And he gets mauled everywhere. And it's trippy because in the thing, this one hick in the movie, like there's like hillbillies, right? And this one hillbilly kills his son. And the reason why he couldn't like help his son is because he'd been charred by the bear.
Yeah.
And he was lying there and this guy murdered his son in front of his eyes. And then he made it like they basically, because he had been mauled so much, they thought he was just like, he was nothing, he was going to die. So they just threw him into the, like, just away. And he managed to like recover in this thing. And then he saw his son getting killed. And then he just remembered that guy and he just like followed and he chased and he got recovered, healed and all this. And it's shot in like the most exquisite, like, places, like in Alaska, like super cold, and like the nature there is like also just the greens and the epic white and just, man, and the water, the flowing water is so pure. So it was like, you should definitely check it out if you haven't.
I'll watch that, mate. I can't help but think if you watch that for the rest of your life, you're going to be pretty messed up.
I know, dude. I know, because at the end of the day, what the fuck? What should I watch for the rest of my life? Like the same thing,
I don't know.
Right?
What I'm still going to say it. I basically say it on every podcast. But there's one. We had a rugby league guy come on, and he absolutely trumped us. And he went, "I'll just watch Groundhog Day," and we were like, "All right, well done, well done."
I just
that was the best answer.
I was also thinking,
I was
going to say Forrest Gump, bro. You know?
No. I was going to bet on the Jungle Book.
Oh,
yes, I like it,
bro. That's a good one. Yeah,
could have been an absolute perfect.
Yeah, I don't know why. I kind of the first thing that came to mind was The Revenant. I think it's just because of the like the, how can I say, the essence of what that movie represents, and I think that the essence of that movie is the resilience in which this guy got mauled, he got shot at, he got all the things, but he managed to like kind of transcend. He managed to get through, and he got his revenge on those guys that did him wrong and killed his son. So it was like, I think it was more that was the driving factor in me saying that, because actually, like, yeah, you watch movies and then maybe you watch another movie again, but it's not like you're going to keep watching the movie like every year.
No, I'm gonna force you. I'm gonna force you. Simon, I told you it'd be good, mate. I told you it'd be epic getting Joe on. Joe, it's been amazing having you join us, mate. It's so good to see you, so good to hear you, and hear what you're up to. It's been brilliant.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Tommy. It's so good to connect with you again, brother, and Simon. And thanks so much for having me on the show. And I'm really stoked to have had this connection today, just to share and laugh. And man, Tom, that's also always what I remember, bro. Is like just the banter with you has always just been off the charts, dude. And I'm
still firing loads of banter Chris Kesney's way.
Send that old beast a bit of my life.
I will.
And just always so grateful for those memories and everything that we shared, man. I can just I see you got married there as well, eh, Silver Fox? Yes,
mate, got married, signed up for a third kid. I just
Yes,
signing
boy.
my life away.
Woo, brother. You rock me, my boy.
I'll be 75 when it's 4.
That's brilliant.
Most importantly, though, it's still working.
That's the positive thing, right? That's the positive
there's all
thing,
still
right?
swings and roundabouts.
I still
Hey,
I got the silver hair, but I'm still rocky, man.
Love it.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, guys. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much.
And you. Cheers, Joe.
You're listening to Podium Podcast with Simon Hartley and Tom May. This is the show that invites the world's top athletes to discuss life in and after professional sport. Podium Podcast is brought to you by True Potential Wealth Management. To find out more, visit domorewithyourmoney.co.uk.